I didn't plan to cover this, but a friend who follows my channel suggested this topic because I use the terms Earthschool and Earthling. So the question she wanted me to address is, are Earthlings the only advanced sentient life form on this planet, or do we share this space with otherworldly beings? Call them extraterrestrials, call them extra dimensionals, or angels, or demons, whatever name fits. The point is, are we alone, or are we just one classroom in a much bigger school? No matter what side your beliefs fall on, this is a topic that has been around for a very long time in our Earthling history. So let's bend our minds and explore DNA evidence, ancient texts, and quantum clues in hopes to find some answers to these long running questions. On July 23rd, 1992, in Sydney, Australia, a 28-year-old man named Peter Corey awoke to a very distressing situation. He was paralyzed, fully conscious, totally awake, but he was unable to move. Two very striking but unearthly females were on his bed. One of them was straddling him. These two females looked human in nearly every way, but there was still something that indicated that they were not Earthlings. One looked somewhat Asian with straight, dark, shoulder length hair and dark eyes. The other one looked very Scandinavian with light colored bluish eyes and long white blonde hair. They had very high cheekbones, milky skin, and their eyes were 2 to 3 times larger than what we would normally see from an Earthling. What transpired between Corey and the two females was a physical assault that was very bizarre and disorienting, according to Corey, as I couldn't imagine. Then, as quickly as these unearthly females had arrived, they vanished. Now, Peter was going through a really rough time in his life, and this incident added further distress. After the women had vanished, he had some really intense physical symptoms and was emotionally stunned. I mean, naturally, right? But he seemed determined to prove that this encounter really happened, so he searched for evidence. And guess what? He found it. Peter ended up becoming one of the countless number of people throughout history who have claimed to have had an alien encounter. But this particular incident stood apart from all of the others we've heard about because this time Peter had evidence, DNA evidence. After this encounter with the two unearthly females, Peter ended up finding 2 strands of the white blonde hair from one of the females. He placed these 2 strands of hair in a plastic bag. After a couple weeks, he told his wife what had happened. She was surprisingly understanding. Peter had also befriended an Australian researcher named Bill Chalker. So Peter brought the hairs to Bill for analysis, who sent them to an independent biochemistry lab ran by a biomolecular chemist named Horace Drew for DNA testing. And the results were shocking. The hair that was analyzed was optically clear, which no humans have, as stated by chemist Horace Drew. Normal human hair also has one DNA type, but this hair had 2 DNA types. The root of the hair had a different DNA profile than the shaft of the hair. That is unheard of. The root of the hair had a blue-eyed, light-skinned Celtic DNA lineage, and a rare type of Mongolian Asian DNA was at the shaft of the hair. According to the scientists who worked on the case, the results of the test also showed signs of possible gene editing or cloning techniques. These tests were repeated to ensure the accuracy of the results, and the secondary results were consistent with the first. This completely stumped everybody involved in this analysis. I mean, how was this possible? Even according to the scientists, the hair seemed to be alien, not of this world. But who were these non-earthling humanoid type beings? And as if the DNA evidence wasn't enough, Corey also took and passed a polygraph test, adding another layer of credibility to his claims. Do you know how many people throughout human history claim to have had personal accounts with some sort of non-earthling type entity? I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of documented cases and likely millions of personal accounts that were never formally recorded. I'm from California. I mean, there are plenty of places out west where if you say that you don't believe in another life form not of this planet Earth, then they're going to think you're bananas. Go to Joshua Tree or Landers. Or what about Roswell, New Mexico? Lots of sightings out there by so many people. You know how many ancient texts there are that are incredibly extraterrestrial? I mean, have you read the Book of Enoch? I've read the Book of Enoch twice. This is one of my favorite ancient texts, and it is wildly bizarre. The Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish text that expands on Genesis 6. It describes these 200 angels called the Watchers sent to observe humanity. Instead, these angels descended to earth, became infatuated with human women, and took them as wives. These women became pregnant with half human, half angel offspring, giving birth to what would be known as the Nephilim. The Nephilim were giants who were known for violence and corruption. They weren't good. The Watchers also taught humans forbidden knowledge that the God in charge did not want the humans to have. This included things like weapon making, sorcery, astrology, and even cosmetics. These actions were seen as a violation of divine law. And as punishment, the God in this text ordered these angel watchers to be imprisoned in a deep abyss. The Nephilim were wiped out eventually in the Great Flood. What about the Turin Kings List? The Turin Kings List is this ancient Egyptian papyrus. It was just an administrative bureaucratic document. It had like tax information on it, but it also has one of the most comprehensive king lists of ancient Egypt known to date. And the list includes both human and non-human rulers. This list records a sequence of rulers, beginning with non-human entities who reigned for thousands of years. Then the list shifts to human kings with realistic lifespans. This transition shows a handoff of power and influence from otherworldly rulers to this mortal human leadership. I mean, this was simply an administrative document of internal record keeping that has non-human then human rulers listed. The Vedas, which are an ancient Sanskrit text composed over 3,000 years ago, which are the foundational texts for Hinduism. And I find these texts very extraterrestrial. Even the Erydogenesis creation story I discussed in my YouTube video titled Forgotten Stories, Forgotten Roots, which I'll link below, is also pretty extraterrestrial. Or what about quantum physics and string theory, which introduces the idea of extra dimensions, many beyond the three that we experience? So does that mean there are other life forms in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th dimension? Or are those dimensions empty if they exist? If these dimensions exist and they are not empty, and there are otherworldly beings living in them, can we see those beings if we are only in the third dimension? More and more people are asking the question, is Earth the only place where life exists? Is it just us Earthlings in our universe? And even if we are the only life forms in our universe, does that even matter if there are other dimensions? Because if there are other dimensions, then otherworldly life could be happening right on top of us, but we cannot perceive it because we are in a lower dimension? Have you ever heard of the Fermi paradox? The Fermi paradox refers to the puzzling contradiction between these two things. Number one, the high probability that intelligent extraterrestrial life exists somewhere in the universe, given the billions of stars and potential habitable planets. And then two, the lack of clear evidence that such civilizations have contacted us, visited Earth, or even exist. According to mainstream scientists, every single star on average is said to have at least one planet going around it, and roughly 1 in 5 of those planets may be Earth-size. That means in our Milky Way galaxy alone, that is said to have 100 billion stars, there could be billions of potentially Earth-like worlds. But it doesn't stop there. Researchers also believe that there are at least 100 billion other galaxies in the observable universe. So if we take 100 billion galaxies and multiply that by 100 billion stars per galaxy, we're talking about a number beyond human imagination. Statistically, it seems almost impossible that we're alone. Yet, when I go on YouTube or search most things in the mainstream, I get this like cheesy alien content, or a lot of the content with this like firm declaration that we're the only life that exists. There isn't really many people saying like, hey, there hasn't been a ton of super clear evidence, at least made available to us common people, in regards to other life forms. But just because there is not clear evidence doesn't mean that they don't exist. In fact, there are many people very passionate about other life forms not existing and almost get mad if you speak about this otherwise, or you're labeled as a quack or a conspiracy theorist. Yet otherworldly beings are mentioned all throughout our earthling history, from personal accounts to ancient texts. I mean, humanity has always encountered something quote unquote other. We've named it differently depending on culture, time, and belief system. But what if all these beings, extraterrestrials, extra or interdimensional entities, angels, demons, the jinn, whatever you want to call it, are just different linguistic choices for the same or similar phenomenon? For example, what if three people saw the same being? One person might say, an angel came to me. Another might say, I had an extraterrestrial encounter, while another says, I saw a Palladian, a fifth dimensional being. Whether they arrive from distant planets, hidden dimensions, or some special layer of the cosmos, the pattern throughout human history is consistent. So maybe the real question isn't what they are, but what role we play in their relationship with us. And what does it mean to be human in a possibly crowded or eerily silent cosmos? Let me know your thoughts on all of this. And as always, have a good week.